located in southeast Wisconsin. Come discover Racine County. Plan your visit today at visitracinecounty.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Talking 262 RKC Third Coast Podcast. I'm Arnav Pokhrel. That's USL2 head coach Matt Foldesy. That's Jaden Strumeier. Guys, great to have you on. I'll give you a quick second if you guys want to introduce yourself. Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. Just excited to get here, finally meet the team. I was a little late. I had other engagements. I was over in England for a little bit, but excited to get here and work with the boys. They've had a good first week.
Jaden?
Yeah, so I'm Jaden Strumeier, for those of you guys listening. Like Coach said, thank you for having us on. First week of training, finally in the books now, so really happy with the way it's gone and, excited to dive into the preview for this week.
Perfect. Match week 1 just happened last week for our women's team, so we're going to run through that division and a couple of men's games as well. We started last Sunday with Bavarian United, a 2-0 victory over Rochester. Chicago Dutch Lions lost 8-0 to River Light. Chicago City SC beat RKC Third Coast. That was last Sunday, 4-2. And then in the midweek, we had a Wednesday game. Rochester FC losing away to Chicago City 5-1. And then on Thursday, another 8-0 defeat for Chicago Dutch Lions. Minnesota Aurora FC was the opponent. And then right now, there's a game going on as we speak between Minnesota Aurora FC and River Light FC. And that actually reminds me to pull it up. We'll try and keep a live update on that game. That's going to be two teams that are really good in the Heartland division for women's. And our last week predictions, I had this game as a draw. Karsten had this as a River Light win. For the men's division last week, we had a Bavarian United SC late victory over Minneapolis City, 1-0 last Saturday. St. Croix lost to Rochester 2-1 last Saturday as well. And then we get to the midweek, it was a 3-0 victory for St. Croix over Minneapolis City, a 4-1 victory for Bavarian over Rochester. And then tomorrow, we've got our RKC Third Coast USL2 men's home opener. I mean, guys, first home game, first USL2 game of the season. Jaden, I mean, how excited are you just to have that get underway?
Oh, no, I mean, I'm pumped. I mean, this is my third year playing USL2 and my third team in the league. So I've played for a couple different teams in my career for the summer. But this, first day, opening day, it always keeps the same excitement.
And Matt, for you, I mean, how exciting is it to finally get that first game under your belt on Saturday?
It's great. You talk about it all spring and you think it's never going to come, and now it's tomorrow. So it's awesome. And the boys are ready. I was really pleased with how they came in. For even this first week, everybody's pretty fit, pretty sharp, and so I'm excited to see it translate on the field.
Perfect. And we'll do our opponent previews. We're going to start with Rochester in the USL2 side for tomorrow. We talked about this last week a little bit as well, but I mean, they're a team that last year finished 5th, won a couple of games, lost a couple of games. They return a couple of key players. Their leading goal scorer is back, Jake Parrish. He's a midfielder or a winger. And then they return a couple of key defenders, as well as Geoffroy Letienne is back. He's a tall French center back. But also, they had a lot of changes. They lost their goalkeeper. 11 games started for Kieran Brown last year. He's now with Reading United AC, so they had to bring in a couple of other goalkeepers to back him up. And we'll talk more about Rochester in our divisional preview as well. But then it's another game against Rochester on Sunday for our women's side against Rochester FC. That one is away in Rochester. So that one kicks off at 4 p.m. Rochester's 0-2 on the season in the women's side. A 2-0 loss at home to Bavarian and a 5-1 loss to Chicago City. Their lone goal this season was scored by Ida Kardovic, who was a starter at Creighton University. They've got a couple of other key signings coming in. Emily Murphy from Green Bay. Putri Sazali comes in from Oakland University and the Singapore national team. They return Ana Ricarte Pacheco, who's their leading goal scorer, and Emma Knack, who is their goalkeeper. So a lot of returners, a lot of good new pieces for Rochester as they look for their first win of the season. They'll take on RKC on Sunday for the women's side. After tomorrow, we've got all a trip to Minneapolis in the midweek against Minneapolis City SC. City are currently 0-2 in USL2 play. 1-0 loss away to Bavarian United, and 3-0 loss at home to St. Croix. And also, just recently announced that head coach Carl Craig has stepped down from his position at Minneapolis City. So we're awaiting a new head coach announcement from Minneapolis City. And then Thursday, we're going to stay in Minnesota for the women's team. They're going to play at Minnesota Aurora FC. They just won 8-0. They're a team that has never lost a regular season game, so very good for them. They scored 8 against Chicago Dutch Lions. And then next Saturday, we're back at home against St. Croix at 7 p.m. They lost their first game of the season against Rochester. They followed it up with a win against Minneapolis City. Guys, I mean, the schedule is now starting to pick up. I know we've got a busy June. Jaden, for you as a player, how do you manage those games where, it's like you play a game, you rest a couple, and you're back in action on Wednesday or in the midweek?
Yeah, no. So Coach and I were talking about this right before the podcast started. It's almost similar to a college season. So, playing all the years that I have at UNCW, I've kind of familiarized myself with the way that this schedule kind of works, like the whole Tuesday, Saturday type deal. So having a schedule like this where the games, are quick and like keep coming up, it's important to just keep your body right, make sure obviously we're putting in good performances but doing the right things off the field too to make sure we're ready to go again for the next game.
And then, Coach, for you, I mean, you look at the schedule. This is your first year coaching in USL 2?
Yes.
So you look at this schedule and, like, obviously it's mirroring a college schedule. You're playing pretty often. How do you manage? I mean, you got rest days you have to work in, but also you have to keep practicing to keep improving.
Absolutely. And so it's like what Jaden said, it does mirror a little bit of a college schedule, which is nice because that's what I'm used to. So it's nothing too dissimilar. It will play into, I think our team has some really, really good depth, right? And it provides a lot of opportunity for guys, right? At some point, it's just too much of a load to play 3 games in a week in that quick succession, and we know it. So kind of managing these guys to make sure that they're operating 100% when they're on the field and then giving them the rest that they need to recover and then being able to play the next one.
All right, and before we send a break, Matt, I want to talk to you about the assistant coaches that you have beside you and TJ and Hayden. I mean, first off, tell us about how you know TJ, because I heard this story, and it is it's way back in time, isn't it?
It is. TJ might be upset I'm saying this, but TJ actually coached me when he was young, just out of college, when I played for internationals. So that was the first time that we met. We're both from the Cleveland area. He always kind of stayed in contact. He was the director of ops at Akron and then now the assistant at Michigan State. And so if you're in the soccer world, you kind of know it's a small little world. So he's one of the coaches that you always you meet people and coaches and you're like, I would love to work with this guy. And so he was honestly top of my list. And so I may have promised him a few too many things to get him over here, but we got him signed, sealed, and delivered, and really excited to have him and Hayden as well. Hayden's done a great job. Obviously, I will claim to not really know anything about goalkeepers, so he's running with that and has done a phenomenal job organizing and helping recruit all these boys to get him here. So really excited for the staff.
Yeah. For more about Hayden, I mean, Hayden comes from Indianapolis, University of Indianapolis, D2 school that plays in the GLIAC. He coached a goalkeeper this year that finished all region third team. So, I mean, he's got the accolades as well. So, I mean, 2 really good coaches beside you. And Jaden, your first couple of weeks in training, how's it been? All 3 of the coaches in now, how's it been?
No, it's been great. I mean, something that I really enjoy as a player is just making new connections, meeting new people, and, people like Coach Foldesy and TJ and Hayden, just all these different backgrounds and, meshing with all the new players that we have. It's really cool to just see all the cultures that we all come from, all of our teams, and then having it in one big group, and then now forming it so we could all work together and mold it into a really good team environment for us.
We'll step aside for a minute on Talking 262. When we're back, we're going to talk a little bit more with head coach Matt Foldesy and Jaden Strumeier. So don't go anywhere. You're watching Talking 262.
Located in southeast Wisconsin, come discover Racine County. Plan your visit today at visitracinecounty.com.
All right, we're back on Talking 262. Arnav Pokhrel, USL2 head coach Matt Foldesy, Jaden Strumeier, and we're going to get to know these guys a little bit more. So, Matt, we're going to start with you because you got a little bit more years on us,
I do.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Tell us about your soccer journey. How'd you get into coaching? But first off, how'd you get into playing?
Yeah, that's what. Just always loved it. Always played as a little kid. My dad actually was a wrestler in high school and college, and a pretty good one. I hate to admit it. So played pretty much every sport as a youth, and then just kind of fell in love with the game when I was around like 10, 11, 12, right when you had to start kind of making decisions of you can't be on every team, you got to travel a little bit more. So just love playing soccer. And then actually, wow, this will date me, but Brad Friedel back in the day opened an academy that was right next to my house. So I was able to play there, played with a lot of really, really great players. Unfortunately, that academy doesn't exist anymore, but did that up until high school, and then went to St. Ignatius High School, played there, and then I was at Akron for 2 years, and then Indiana for 2 years. So a little bit of everything, and that's what I think is great for these guys too, especially if they're going to make the next step in their playing career. It's going to be a new environment. So anytime you can go in a new environment and adapt and just be comfortable being a little bit uncomfortable is only going to help these guys as they grow.
And then for you, Jaden, I mean, you played at a pretty big academy down in Arizona, but you're not from Arizona. You're from New Jersey. So walk us through that.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in New Jersey. I, like Coach said, I've also played, like I could relate to that, playing all the different sports growing up, basketball, baseball, soccer. So then it was kind of a quick, like I had to decide pretty quickly what sport I was going to focus on, and it was just always soccer for me. So yeah, I started at PDA. That was when I was introduced to like the developmental academy. I know it doesn't exist anymore, so that really shows my age, I guess, too. But yeah, the DA, that's where I was introduced to it. Played on some really, really good teams at PDA, really good players that I still am in contact with, coaches as well. And then I made the move it was my junior year of high school out to Arizona for the Barca Academy, and that was, I know we're going to talk about it later, so I don't want to jump into it too much, but what an environment. The players there, I know I could shout out some amazing names, players and coaches, and just the overall environment allowing me to progress my career ultimately to UNCW, where I spent the last 5 years playing, and now I'm here. So I'm looking forward to the summer and getting ready for the next step in my career too.
For sure. And then for both of you guys, I mean, how did you end up in RKC? Matt, we're going to start with you again. I mean, you're the head coach. How'd you get here?
Absolutely. So a little bit of word of mouth. So I actually knew Sean Hughes really well. So that was it was a great kind of transition. It made it easier for me. Obviously, new environment. I'm living a little bit distance from my wife and from home, which is okay. That's what you got to do. But Wayne reached out, and then just talking to him, I think I to be honest, I'm like, you know what? I'll just have the call. I really wasn't. I'm like, it's a great opportunity. I'll explore it. Just from the logistics standpoint, I'm like, there's probably not a way I'm going to make this work. And then after talking to Wayne, I'm like, I'll talk to him for 10 minutes. Talk for like an hour and a half. Wayne likes to talk, as you guys know. But it was a great chat, and I'm like, he's doing it right. Like, he cares about the kids, he cares about his club. He's trying to create an environment that I believe in. And I'm like, you know what, this is a great opportunity. And so pretty much after that first call, I'm like, you know what, if I can make this work, I'm gonna make it work. And now I'm here, so I'm excited.
And Jaden, for you, I mean, you mentioned a couple years of USL2 experience.
Yeah.
Here for year number 3. What's that like?
I am. So yeah, I mean, finding RKC, I when it was time to like coming towards the summer and it was time for the USL2 season, I knew that I wanted to play. I just didn't know where. And from New Jersey, I always like had my eyes on FC Motown, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out this year. But fortunately for me, I ended up finding RKC. A reason for that was just I have my connections at PDA, the East Coast. Barca was the West Coast, but I had nothing in like the Midwest, and I wanted to experience something new. So I was just looking through the teams, found RKC, did a little bit of research, got in touch with Hayden, learned more about the club, and then from there it was an easy decision for me. So I'm really happy to be here.
And you mentioned wanting to get to know the Midwest. Now that you've been here for a couple of weeks, what are your thoughts?
He's never leaving.
I don't know about
He's
that.
never leaving.
I don't know if I would go to say that, but it's definitely different. I don't know, like what can I shout out? Like Quick Trip. Like I just found out quick trip. That's something new. And the cheese, like the cheese. I just had cheese curds for the first time.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, it was an interesting experience.
There you go.
So yeah.
Was it Culver's?
No, well, I had them from Culver's before, but I had like the ones where I've been taught that they like squeak and stuff. You gotta leave them out, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So like,
There you go.
I'm learning a little bit as we go.
That's good to know. Matt, for you, you play at IU, you graduate. What was your first introduction into the coaching side of things?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I actually, after I was done playing, I just needed a little break. I think mentally, sometimes, and even these kids, Jaden's a little bit older, so he can understand it probably a little bit more. But you're so engulfed with it for your entire life. That's kind of all you're focusing on. Obviously, you're a student athlete, going to school, you're doing that bit as well. But I just needed a little break. So I ended up going to Boston, worked for Oracle, a tech sales company. Did that job, kind of realized, really quickly realized sitting behind a desk and doing sales wasn't necessarily for me. It was a great job. It's a great company. Nothing wrong there. Just wasn't for me. So then I started just kind of tiptoeing my way around of getting back in. Knew that I kind of wanted to get my graduate degree. So I'm like, maybe I could tie them together. And so I ended up going to Lewis University, being the graduate assistant who plays in the same league as Hayden coaches in. UND plays Lewis all the time. And I loved it. So it was a great little scenario of just two coaches. So Evan Feifel's the head coach there. I was the assistant, and he kind of let me hit the ground running. So year one, let me do a good amount of coaching and then a good amount of recruiting. So I was overseas. I was at a lot of the showcases. It was a great little kind of dip your toe into it. And then about 8 months into that, my associate head coach at IU got the Ohio State job. And so that transition of he kind of just brought me with him to Ohio State, and that's home for me. I'm from Cleveland. That's grow up. You're a Buckeye football fan because the Cleveland Browns are so bad. Love them to death. But so you gotta root for a team that wins. So kind of everyone in Ohio is a little bit of a Buckeye, but it feels like home for me. So it couldn't be better.
Perfect. And Jaden, you mentioned it, going to Arizona at the Barca Academy. First off, for those who may not know, like, give us a little bit of information on what the academy is, and then, what was your experience like there?
Sure. So, the Barca Residency Academy. So it's in Casa Grande, Arizona, and they have like this big campus, and they have the school there, the gym there, all the fields in the back. They have a hotel and dorms for all the kids. So when I first got there, it was a eye-opening for me because I was 15, 16 years old, moving across the entire country to follow a dream. So I will say the environment, the kids that are there, like one thing that helped me the most all the time was that knowing that everyone was there for the same things. Like obviously we were student athletes, but at times it felt like we were athlete students. Like you love soccer so much, you love the game so much, and you put everything into it. And when everybody around you wants to be a pro, it just drives the group in so many ways. I will say just the success that they've produced in the players. Like you have the likes of, I don't know, who can I even shout out? Like Julian Araujo playing in La Liga. Matthew Hoppe, he's one of the bigger names to come out of there. Then like Diego Luna, he's playing in the MLS. So all these guys that I've crossed paths with, it's been a blessing to have known them and got to know them on the field, but off the field as well. I mean, you live together, you eat together, you share rooms with one another. Like you go to school, the classes that we would have, like there would be the kids from Casa Grande that would be in the school with us, but majority of the kids were Barca Academy kids. So you're sitting in every single class with your teammates. And I mean, we got our work done, but we found the time to joke around and have fun and really get to know each other. And from there, it's been, I mean, it's a complete family. Like the guys that I talk to, I mean, I'll still talk to them to this day all the time. And it's just, I don't know, it was just an amazing experience. And for anybody that would want to, like, any young kids, I guess, that are looking to advance themselves, whether it's college or pro, then Barca Academy is one of the best places to do it at.
And for you, educational, you mentioned it, you're going to school, but you're a student athlete, right. Sometimes it's athlete-student. What was that transition like for you, moving from, this fully soccer-focused school that you're going there to play soccer? Now you're getting education. What'd you major in at UNCW?
So it's a kind of a long story because I went in undecided just because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I went into a bit of like sports management and stuff, and just the way that I really enjoyed it But the way that it worked out with my eligibility, because I missed that half year of school. Like when I came back from that, I needed to switch my major again to be able to be eligible to play soccer. So then I had to switch to sociology, which I ended up finishing up in. But that's an example for me where it's just been like school obviously is important, but for me it's always been soccer has been the priority. So no matter what it takes to be on the field, that's what it was.
Even if it means getting a sociology degree.
If it means to switch your major 3 times, yep, that's it.
As long as you graduate, you can do, as long as you have a degree.
Diploma?
Well, nah, because I missed that year of school, so I have to finish up in the fall. I'm going to finish it up online and be fully done.
There you
Yeah.
Perfect. Matt, for you, you recently went to England with Ohio State.
Yeah.
First off, I mean, that's a crazy logistical trip. I can only imagine. So walk us through that, and then what was your experience like there?
Yeah, it was kind of nice. So goofy NCAA rule, you can only do an international trip once every 4 years. So man, this will be my 6th fall at Ohio State. So we hadn't taken one yet. Just kind of figured, not why not, but we've always kind of wanted to. COVID threw a wrench into a little bit of everything, so it kind of just, even though I know we're a little displaced from it, you're just settling back into a normal routine. So we thought it was a great time. We had a couple boys that actually, one was able to join us early. We took a senior just because we have a roster cap, so we're short numbers, but we had made sure we had enough players to play, so I didn't have to go out there in the field because no one wants to see that. But it was awesome. We worked through Vertex, which is a company. They did a fabulous job. So they pretty much take care of you from top to bottom. So it's kind of show up, and obviously we're responsible for our guys, but they had the buses, they had the schedule, we ended up playing Leicester's 21s, Everton's 21s, and Brentford B. So awesome competition. We went to the Man U Arsenal game, the City Tottenham game. It was fun. I mean, you can't not smile. It was, I think the boys had a great experience and great competition. And honestly, for us, it's awesome we got to work with them a little bit longer this year too, right? Because once finals hit, you're not allowed to work with your team over the summer. So gave us a little bit of extra time and get some guys acclimated, but it was an awesome experience.
And for that trip, I mean, what are just some of the things you were able to take away from being in England? Like totally different soccer culture there as well.
No, it is. It's awesome to see. So it's cool to see each city it's like it's the town center, right? For each one of these stadiums, we got to visit Nottingham Forest, which was awesome. And so it's everybody in the town is kind of almost by default a supporter of that team. And so it's really cool to see the support and how the city kind of lives and dies by it. But it's awesome to be over there and just experience everything.
And when you mentioned Brentford B,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, is that where Beckham's?
Yeah,
Did you get the chance to play against him?
You know what? I don't know if he was. I know he didn't start. I don't think he ended up being out there. I think one of the coolest ones was Leighton Baines was playing for Everton's 21s. Yeah. So that was a pretty cool experience. All our guys were getting, some photos. I think one of our boys did like a little post interview with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a good sport.
Jaden, for you, you mentioned this in passing, and I just kind of wanted to throw it out there. You got a chance to train in Spain for a little bit. What was that like? What club were you with, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I will say one thing that I love about soccer that'll never get old is the places that it's taken me. I mean, I've been grateful enough and blessed enough to have seen a bunch of amazing places, countries, cities. But yeah, I was just in Spain pretty recently in December. I was with Real Oviedo, so it's a Spanish second division team in the northwest of Spain, and it was amazing experience. Just the style of play, the way that they handle themselves, the whole culture there. It was something that made me. I mean, I already knew that I wanted to progress my career after college, but it's just another reminder like why I do it and why I work so hard at it. So it's definitely something that I treasure and hold on to and think about. I have all my pictures and memories and all that stuff, and something to keep in the back of my head after the summer's over eventually, and figuring out what I'm going to do next. So
Matt, for you, when you were talking to Wayne for that first time, what did you know about the club just before that? Did you do any research, or was it just kind of like whatever Wayne says, then I'll go on?
So I did a little bit, right? It was, I think he texted me over the weekend on maybe a Saturday, and then we talked Monday. So it was more so, I knew I was going to do my homework. I just wanted to kind of talk to him, So after I did a really deep dive and looked at, the rosters and the last players and kind of did all that, but really just wanted to get his thoughts. I think the environment that you create and the reasons why you're doing it was very important to me. And so we were immediately on the same page. And I'm like, this is absolutely an environment I could see myself being in and thriving in and hopefully helping these players develop in. So that was more so for the first one. And then, yeah, I looked up all the stats. I printed out old Model 11. Yeah, we got into the weeds a little bit, but after the first phone call.
Jaden, for you, same thing? Were you doing the research? You saw the standings?
It was pretty similar. I mean, I found the club and I reached out to Hayden. We talked and he said last year was its first year in existence. So to me, that just sounded like more of opportunity. Last year I know they went to the playoffs, finished second in the division. So just building off of that. When I was figuring out the club and finding the club, going back on the Instagram and seeing all the guys that have already been recruited and finding connections with them. And so yeah, it was pretty similar, but when I got into more detail with Hayden, it just seemed like there was such great opportunity to be had here. So made it an easy decision.
Perfect. That's Matt Foldesy, Jaden Strumeier. We're going to take a step aside on Talking 262. We'll be right back to get through the roster and talk about the division a little bit here. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Located in southeast Wisconsin, come discover Racine County. Plan your visit today at visitracinecounty.com.
Yeah, we will.
All right, we're back on Talking 262. We're laughing because there's some new news here from Minneapolis City. Breaking news 28 minutes ago. Minneapolis City has hired interim head coach Justin Oliver, who's an NCAA champion with St. Olaf. He takes the reins after Carl Craig stepped down. We mentioned that earlier in the podcast. And then joining him in the technical room, associate head coach / assistant coach for City is Tudor Flintham, who is two-time MEAC Coach of the Year and the head coach of Gustavus, another Minnesota-based program. So once again, you're reaching into the Minnesota pool, really talented team in Division III in St. Olaf. You get their head coach to come join you. Then you get the Gustavus head coach as well, who's coached a top 15 program in Division III. I mean, we were just talking about this, like, new manager, there's a lot of things to look forward to if you're Minneapolis City. And so I think, we'll have them in the midweek and we'll get to the first chance to see, a new manager at work. And it's exciting, no? Is it something you look forward to?
No, absolutely. And I know those guys, they might be a little rushed to get everything up and running, but I'm sure they'll do a phenomenal job. So one at a time for me, but excited to play midweek.
Perfect. And so with that, we'll get into our divisional rundown. We're going to start with Minneapolis City just because we were just talking about them. New head coach in Justin Oliver. Last year they finished 6th place, 3-3-6 record, but they return one of their best forwards, one of the best forwards in all of college soccer, and Hakeem Morgan, who's a Costa Rica international player as well. A lot to look for that team. They're going to be another good team. Also, always a really good fan base as well. If you have seen any clips, I don't know, maybe pictures at Augusta University where they play, they always pack the stands. They got the crows, they got the flares, everything going. That's going to be one really fun away trip that we're going to have on Wednesday. And I know we're focused on Rochester tomorrow, but for me, it's always good to look forward because I get the chance to look ahead at the midweek. And I know, it's always fun to play in front of a packed crowd. I feel like that's those fun games, no? It's always good when you get fans in the stands, and that's what Minneapolis City does really well. We'll go next to Thunder Bay, who's the team that finished first in the division last year with a 9-2-1 record. Matt, I know Thunder Bay is a team in Canada, and we've got some Canadian players on our
We
team.
do.
What are you excited about for that team? Two teams that finished top of the division last year. What are you excited for that matchup?
Yeah, you know what I think? Looking at it, the rosters do change a little bit, right? So it's getting acclimated, I think, with this season's team comparatively to last season. I know you want to pick up right where you left off last summer, but I think the more we're watching some game film now. They're just starting to roll in the first one or two, so just getting comfortable and acclimated with them. I'm excited for our team, and I think everybody, you focus a little bit more on yourself in the first couple, just so you have your style of play, how you interchange and what players you want where. And then as the season starts to build, we can dive in a little bit more on scouts and other teams and how we want to defend and key players, obviously, for this guy to make sure they don't score. So that'll be good.
Jaden, for you, the trip is always a fun one. It's
Yeah.
8 hours, overnight, obviously, in Thunder Bay, and then you drive back after the game. I want you to go back to your college days. What's the longest away trip you guys had at UNCW?
Well, the longest, I don't know if this really counts about longest away trip, but there was times, I mean, being in Wilmington, we have to deal with the hurricanes a lot. So there was a time where there was a hurricane and we had to evacuate, and we moved, I mean, the whole team, we picked up and we went and we stayed in a hotel together. And it was during the regular season, so we would have to play our regular season games, we practiced at High Point a couple times, and then I remember we had games against Radford and Presbyterian, so we were traveling around, but we were all living in a hotel. And that whole experience was, I mean, some of my favorite memories come from away trips in college, especially, whether it's like singing karaoke on the bus or, if any of my UNCW teammates are listening, playing Among Us. That was a big. But whatever it is, it's just the away trips always bring out so much fun. I mean, and we're always focused on getting the result, but it's like that's really the chance that you get to know some of the guys off the pitch a lot more.
Next opponent that we've got here on our divisional rundown, Rochester FC. We have them tomorrow night, and then we go away to Rochester on June 15th. So two earlier season matchups for us against Rochester. Last year they finished 5th, 4-2-6 record. They beat Thunder Bay, so they were Thunder Bay's lone loss on the season in Thunder Bay. That one finished, I believe it was 1-0 or 2-0, or 2-1, I think was the final score of that game. Once again, I mean, a talented team. They bring back a couple of key pieces, like we mentioned earlier in the opponent preview. What are you looking at of them tomorrow in the home opener?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think more for us tomorrow, we've watched some film on them. Good team, can move the ball. I think everyone in the division can beat anybody, right? It's good. But these guys have to show up every game ready to go, right? So it'll be a little bit more emphasis on us and how we're going to start the game and how we want to play. And I'm excited to see these guys. If they play the way they train, I'm excited to see it all come to fruition tomorrow night.
Perfect. And then we're going to move on to the other team in Wisconsin, Bavarian United FC. Last year they finished 7th with a 1-2-9 record. But like you mentioned, Matt, the roster's changed so much. They've played 2 games. They've won both. They've already bettered their record from last season. Bavarian United made a couple of really good moves. Green Pears up top for them as well. I mean, it's always a rivalry. And Jaden, rivalries are always fun games. But there's also a sense of you want the other team in Wisconsin to do well because it's all about growing the game. What was your favorite rivalry in college or in high school in Barca? Did you ever have any rivalry games back then?
Barca was tough because in the DA at the time there was no other team in Arizona. But one thing I will say is when I was at UNCW, something that we did every year was we played UNC Chapel Hill. So we would go play them at their place, and then the next year they would come to us. So it was always that one game where the schedule came out and you circled it, first one. So because whether it was going to their place and they have that beautiful stadium, it was amazing. Stands were filled. I mean, you have a stadium like that, but just playing in that environment was crazy. But then coming back when they came to us, that was like really like we had the stands packed, like no space to sit, so people were up on the fence, and we won that game. So it was, I mean, there was red cards, goals. I mean, it finished 2-1, but it was such an amazing experience. And that was like the one game that really sticks out in my mind as like the one that, always the school that I looked forward to playing to the most.
And what was that feeling like when you? I mean, because UNC Chapel Hill is a national powerhouse program. ACC is one of the best, if not the best, college soccer conference. When you're able to take down a team like UNC, how big is that for not just your program but for players mentally?
Oh, it feels great. I mean, you feel. I mean, we always try to say you don't get too high on the highs, but don't get too low on the lows. But right after that game's over, the emotions, and I mean, my family was there, so being able to see them after that, it felt good. I mean, it always feels good. And I'll use another example. Like this season, we went to Clemson away, and we grinded out a 1-1 draw. Could have won the game. We had a great chance at the end. But seeing how their season ended, obviously winning the whole thing, you look at that and you're like, wow, that's something to take with you for sure. As a program, it was great.
And the only other team we need to touch on, St. Croix. They finished 4th last year, 5-1-6 record. They played a couple of games as well, and they are 1-1 so far, 3-0 win against Minneapolis City, and a 2-1 loss against Rochester in the first game of the season. We see them next Saturday, so it'll be fun to have that. And then there's only 6 teams in the division, so we play 2 teams 3 times, which means we're going to go to St. Croix twice, and Rochester is going to come to Racine twice to play us because FC Manitoba no longer in USL 2. You do lose, once again, a fun away trip because usually what teams would do, you play Thunder Bay, you spend a day traveling to Manitoba, and then you come back. But no Manitoba this year, so it's just the 6 teams in the Deep North Division. We're going to move on to the roster rundown. We're going to start with the goalkeepers. Alex Cara from Indiana, Daniel Rana from formerly Green Bay, he now plays at Parkside, and then Nick Diana from IPFW. Matt, when you're looking at this goalkeeping group, and we've only had Nick and Danny here with us so far, Alex recovering from injury, but I mean, what has impressed you so far from these goalkeepers?
Just kind of their confidence and their feel for it. You can always tell if the keeper is just a little bit nervous, whether his technique's good or not is something I don't get in the weeds with, but the way their demeanor and how they hold themselves, I think they both carry themselves really well. They're vocal, they're not overly vocal, which is great. They communicate, they're sorting everything out. So I'm honestly very impressed with both of them and how quickly they fit right in.
And Jaden, for you as a defender, I mean, you're relying so much on hearing the goalkeepers constantly in your ears. What's that like for you? How much trust do you have in those, just in general, how much have you trusted goalkeepers through your whole career?
Yeah, I mean, as a center back, it's always been, my focus has always been on me, my other center back pairing, and the goalkeeper. So you have that little triangle, and you form those bonds pretty quickly. And one thing I will say is, throughout the week, even this week, just building relationships with them, getting to know them, and then on the field, I like to organize and be loud and move people around, but having somebody behind me to do that to me is something that I really appreciate. So they don't go unnoticed as much as we joke around with them. They don't. Yeah, they're a big piece of the team for sure.
Moving on to your neck of the woods, Jaden. Yeah. The defenders, we got you, Jaden Strumeier from UNCW, Jaden Prado, who's transferring from Green Bay to Northeastern for next season, Coque Gracia Martinez, who's at Sacred Heart, Rowan Capilla, who's going to join us from Marshall, Joao Pinto from Quinnipiac, Mattia Bui from Davidson Elkins. He's transferring somewhere in Florida, I think. I don't know the college off the top of my head. Callum Shillington from St. Bonaventure, Nick Rogalski from, I believe it is Lewis that he's from, correct. So a tie there with you, Matt. And then we got Luis Flores from College Lake Country. He's transferring to Parkside. So, once again, I mean, really talented group. And so far, what have your thoughts been? Jaden, we're going to start with you because this is your group.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
What have you been impressed by so far?
No, I mean, a big thing for me as a defender is just bravery, whether it's on the ball or off the ball, tackling or whatever. But you could tell that this group of guys, you could tell how much they want it, how much they care about the game. I think as the season will go on, our relationships will strengthen, but even already, I know that on this back line, at least, I have some friends that I'll have for a very long time. So just building those relationships off the field, that way on the field, we have a really, really good sense of each other and our chemistry and everything like that.
And Matt, for you, I mean, defense always important.
Win championship. Absolutely does.
What are you saying first couple weeks of training?
And that's what even these guys. So we haven't done too much attacking. They're pretty technical, pretty good on the ball, which is great. So we focus mainly on just our defensive structure and our setup. And so these guys, they've picked it up really well. All of them pretty high Q soccer players, which is great for how we want to play, pretty technical. And then, like Jaden said, it's really really just building those relationships. And because the season is so fast and furious, we'll have a lot of kind of different combinations for different periods of the game. So all these guys just getting more comfortable with each other. But I'm excited to even mix and match them. And I think there's a lot of good lineups that we can roll out in.
And I think the term that I like to use with this is versatility. There's a lot of defenders that can play different positions. I mean, Jaden, starting with you, play left back, play left center back. Some of the defenders can step into the midfield. Sure. What's that like for you as a coach, knowing that, hey, if something goes wrong, if we need someone, there's one of these defenders that can step up and fill that role?
Absolutely. And so even the way we're going to play, you have to be a decent soccer player all over the pitch. You can find yourself in any spot, how we kind of want to step out and we want to play. So these guys to say, I'm only a number 9 coach, or like I'm only a center back, I can't play outside back, would be tougher to play and how we want to. And so all these guys they're, again, the IQ, I was actually really pleased with how high the IQ is of the group, and they're interchangeable, and that only helps them develop as a players, right? You should have a spot, you're, a center back, outside back, but you have to be comfortable in all the different spots of the field. So these guys have taken to it pretty well.
All right, moving into the midfield, Mickey Riley from Carthage College, Colin McCamey from Northwestern, Will O'Connor from Bonaventure, Daniel Chiappetta from WIU, Jacob Garrigues from Quinnipiac, Tank Anderson from Parkside, and Alan Alonso from UIC. Midfield that loves to get the ball moving forward. I mean, we've seen it in training so far, Jaden. This is a really talented group of midfielders. Also, really good hair from Mickey and Colin.
I actually didn't even think of that, but now that you say it,
they have some great flow between the two of them. But for you, Matt, I mean, the midfield, you have some returning players and players like Mickey and Chiappetta who are going to be, contributing to this team. Like, what does that mean for you, having players that know this place and know this team a little bit more than you?
It's great. It's great because it just gives the entire team a comfortability, right? And it calms everybody down. And I'll bring up Colin McCamey because he played pretty much every minute last year, but does a great job, comes in. Obviously, I'm familiar with him and playing against him at Northwestern. So the whole group, and they're interchangeable as well. So we'll be pretty fluid with our midfield, and all those guys are comfortable in any of those midfield spots. So they're a good little technical group. I'm excited for him tomorrow.
And Colin, he won Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week. Was that the week they played Ohio State or no?
Oh, rubbing it in. Honestly, I'm not sure. It probably was. He was quite good against us. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up.
I mean, midfielders, what have you seen so far from them?
I think a big thing for me, especially as a center back, is I like to. I mean, my coaches would always tell me, like, let the midfielders have the ball. You're a defender, give it to no. But I will say, like, knowing or seeing how brave they are to get on the ball and want to get on the ball, like, you can tell if a midfielder is, if he shies away from it or if he doesn't want the ball as much. But seeing how much these guys get into good spots for me makes my job so easy. Let them get turned, faced forward, driving. They make the final pass. They make the creative actions. Just, it makes my job super easy. So I'm really looking forward to playing with these guys.
And finally, the forwards for RKC. You start with Kevin Andrews from Wisconsin, another player who I assume you played against.
Absolutely.
After he transferred from UCF to Wisconsin. You have Caius Cantautas from Green Bay and Channing Chaston from Ohio State. I'm going to let you talk about Channing because obviously you coached him for a little bit. Then he went to play professionally. Now he's here at RKC.
Absolutely. So Channing, I know well. He was one of our... When we took over, wow, this is like 6 years ago now.
A while ago.
Yes, so he was, his first year was in 19. He was one of our only commits that we inherited. Our first year was 18, and so happy we decided to stay with him. He's a great kid, phenomenal kid, good athlete, can go beat you 1v1, very dynamic, and he's a good, mature voice in the group. I can't say enough good things about him. I'm excited he's joining us. It actually worked out pretty well for us. He was just in between a couple things, and I guess I sold him. He's here now. He can't go back.
And for you, I mean, what's it like? First off, I assume you saw the post where it said that he's an author. So what was that like? What was your initial reaction when you read that?
You know what? I've actually crossed paths with Channing in Arizona. He played for AZ Arsenal. I played for Barca Academy. So we played each other a couple times, and he knew a lot of the people that I know. So we had, we were familiar in that way. But I knew he went to Ohio State, and I knew he was at Phoenix Rising. But I hadn't heard of him until, I hadn't seen anything about him until we posted him. I was like, oh my gosh, Channing, this guy's familiar for me. And then to see that he's an author, see what he's doing with everything off the field is just amazing. And I really applaud him for that. And I wish him nothing but the best for his future endeavors.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have Channing on. Hopefully, if we can take this show on the road in
Ooh.
Thunder Bay, that's something that's
Nice.
potentially in the works. But for you to see things like that, player who gets out in the community, there's a club that's hosting a day where they're gonna bring him in and let him talk to the players. For someone who gets out in the community, what's that like for you as a coach, having formerly coached him and just seeing him do things off the field?
It's awesome to see. So even Channing as a high schooler he just carries himself very well. He was even mature as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, and then he's very self-motivated and an entrepreneur, and he's doing his thing, and I love it. And kind of what Jaden said, I wish him nothing but the best. And it's awesome because he does have a passion for it, right? And it's great for these kids to get involved in something. Everybody would be awesome for everyone to play soccer as long as they can. But once soccer is done, doing something you're passionate about that's all you can hope for somebody. So it's exciting to see him do it.
And I want to talk about Kevin as well. For you, Jaden, you're playing, whether you're playing at center back, whether you're playing at left back, you see a lot of Kevin.
Yes.
What has impressed you from him so far?
Well, I see a lot of him, and I'm very happy to say that I will be seeing a lot of him in our jersey and not somebody else's, because he's a tricky player. But I will say, as a defender, you feel a bit of pressure because you want to keep a zero on the board for as long as possible. But to know that we have guys like Channing and Kai and Kevin that are up there that are going to score goals for us, it takes the pressure off of us. Because we know that we won't have to rely on keeping clean sheets every single game. Obviously, we want to, but it's probably not the most realistic thing to say. So knowing that we will score goals, it's just a great thing to see.
Perfect. So that's the roster that we have for RKC in 2024. Maybe a couple additions coming in here soon as well. But before we get to our look around the leagues brought to you by Carthage College, we're going to take a step aside on our Talking 262. We'll be right back.
Located in southeast Wisconsin, come discover Racine County. Plan your visit today at visitracinecounty.com.
All right, welcome back to Talking 262. Arnav, Pokhrel, Matt Foldesy, Jaden Strumeier here with you. It's time for your look around the leagues, brought to you by Carthage College. We want to remind you that the annual Carthage College golf outing will be held on June 24th at the club at Strawberry Creek, now named the Firebird Classic. The event is a great way to celebrate and support the more than 750 Firebird student athletes who participate each year in Carthage College athletics. Visit athletics.carthage.edu for registration and sponsorship information. We're going to take a look around the league. We're going to start with the W League because they have a couple of pretty important games on their side. We're going to start with the division schedule for this upcoming week after today and tomorrow when Minnesota Aurora and Riverlight play. Bavarian United will play against Chicago Dutch Lions at home. We've got Rochester FC against RKC, like we mentioned on Sunday. And then we've got Riverlight against Chicago City. So both teams based out of Aurora, Illinois. They both play in Chicago. That one will be at Spartan Athletic Park, so Riverlight's going to host that one. We got Minnesota Aurora FC hosting us in RKC Third Coast. Bavarian United hosts Riverlight. And then to close off the week of play, Chicago Dutch Lions host Rochester FC. Me and the other co-host here, Karsten Luedtke, we do this thing where we predict every non-RKC game. So far, I've got one leg up on him. If I scroll up in here, I think I've got a 5-3 record, and he's got a 4-4 record. So I'm going to run through my predictions for the non-RKC games. I've got Bavarian beating Chicago Dutch Lions. I've got a draw between Riverlight and Chicago City. I've got Riverlight taking down Bavarian United, and I've got Rochester beating Chicago Dutch Lions. Karsten's putting his predictions in after the school day because he's still a high school student, so he's still got school. But for the League 2 side, we've got 2 RKC games in Minneapolis City and St. Croix in the upcoming week. And then we've got Thunder Bay with their season opener against Bavarian United, and Rochester hosting Minneapolis City. So 2 Minnesota teams, both with bird logos, playing against each other next Saturday as well. My 2 predictions, I've got Thunder Bay, I've got Rochester. Those 2 teams in Rochester and Minneapolis have already played once this season, and Minneapolis City won. So I think Rochester will get one back against them. But for you guys, I mean, how much do you take into a stock? Like, other kind of, are you focused on tomorrow, and then after tomorrow you kind of look around the division, and then you start getting into that mode?
Yes. I think one game at a time, and especially right now, preseason was quick. Just really looking, I'm very, very happy it's a home game. It's nice just to be at home and not have to travel for the first one, just kind of getting our feet wet here. And then as the season goes on, we can get a little bit more, watching the scoreboards and all that good stuff, but just mainly focused on us tomorrow.
Yeah, same thing with you, Jaden. I mean, you want to play well tomorrow, and then you can look around.
Of course, yeah. We're going to take it one game at a time, one performance at a time, one half at a time, like however you want to look at it. It's just, for me and for the team, it's just once you get those first 3 points on the board, things start to feel a lot more comfortable. So I always think it's important to start fast and to start with a win. So that's obviously what we're going to try and do tomorrow.
All right, next episode, we're planning, hopefully next Friday or Saturday, we'll have Jaden Masters from the USLW team, formerly of University of Houston, now at ULM and IMG Academy graduate. We'll have her with us next week. Before I thank our sponsors, any last words, Jaden, Matt? I'll leave the floor to you guys.
No, hopefully we'll see a lot of these viewers tomorrow at the game. I don't know, since I've never played, I don't know how much of a crowd we get, but I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there supporting us. We appreciate it a lot. So the more people that we can have, the better be for us. So
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to see a ton of people there tomorrow if you can make it out. And then I would just like to thank Wayne for the opportunity and the team as well. He's done a great job getting us all here, and we're excited. So thank you to the ownership.
All right, yeah, perfect. Thank our sponsors. As always, visit Racine County. We're there in their offices right now. They're our gold sponsor, our highlight video sponsor. We got our athletic trainer, Ricardo, who's done a great job. He's from Mosh Athletic Training. Red Onion Racine is our post-game meal sponsor. Carthage College equipment sponsor. And Camp Shutout is our save sponsor. Once again, that's Jaden Strumeier, Matt Foldesy. That's another episode of Talking 262. I'm your host, Arnav Pokhrel. We'll see you next week. We'll see you tomorrow.
We want to thank you, too, for having us. This was great. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you do.
That'll be it. We'll see you tomorrow at Pritchard Park, and Sunday USLW travels, and we're back here in the Visit Racine County Studios next Friday.